Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to Joy Newsroom with me, Pious, Kojo, Backah. Coming up in our headlines, anti-graft campaigners not backing down on push for a probe into the affairs of the Sanitation Minister, despite a statement claiming there are inconsistencies in what is being discussed and a complaint to the police.
You can easily refer to what she deposited when she was appointed as a minister, the records that indicate that she has so much assets, and then you compare that to the amount of money that she has been receiving as a minister.
Amid calls for the Office of the Special Prosecutor to launch investigations into the Cecilia Dapaah cash scandal, the OSP has sent out a tweet indicating it has its eyes firmly on the grounds tracking persons engaged in corruption in Ghana. Also in this bulletin, Ghana's total debt stock jumped significantly to hit 569.3 billion. We have details captured in the latest Bank of Ghana economic and financial data reports. We have details of these and many others coming your way all in a moment. Please stay. Grateful for your company. Let's now start off this way. Anti-graft campaigners are this afternoon not backing down in the push for a probe into the affairs of the Sanitation Minister, Cecilia Dapaah. This is despite a statement claiming there are inconsistencies in what is being discussed and a complaint to the police. The minister has been the subject of spirited public discussion since it emerged that a domestic staff stole more than $1 million from a home. Law Professor Acheampong believes a probe into the matter will put the matter to rest.
As for money, you have the right to keep your money where you want it to be, and everybody also has a right to property. So what you have worked for, what you have earned, is entirely yours, except those that you have to pay as tax. But in this situation, that is why, for example, the assets declaration regime would be helpful, because you can easily refer to what she deposited when she was appointed as a minister, the records that indicate that she has so much assets, and then you compare that to the amount of money that she has been receiving as a minister or as a member of parliament or as both. And then you can easily draw the line and do the deductions and conclude that so much money could not have been acquired through legitimate means. Of course, the law also talks about gifts and so on. So you need to look at all of that. And then you conclude if the money, the excess that is not accounted for can be legitimate money, or whether it came in through illicit means, which therefore suggests money laundering issues, brings that issue into the picture. And so keeping money in your home is not wrong, but what money is it? And what is the money being used for? Because according to the facts, the money has been there for some time, and the people have been siphoning it off, and they thought that they had also hit a jackpot, so they continued to do that. And they couldn't even recognize that the money was being siphoned off. And so that tells you that there is more to it than meets the eye.
Well, the minister in question in the last few hours has issued a statement, and I would like to read that to you. And it has the caption, "Statement from Cecilia Dapaah." It reads, "I refer to publications dated 21st July 2023, suggesting that I own $1 million, 300,000 euros, and 1 million cedis, which have been stolen from my house. There are noticeable inconsistencies between what is being discussed in the public domain and the thrust of the original complaint on the matter. I am taking steps to examine the origins of the inconsistencies and will provide a detailed response in the coming days." And it has a signature, Cecilia Dapaah there. All right, so political risk analyst and economist Dr. Acheampong says the amounts involved leaves one with no choice but to wonder how much cash the minister was keeping at home.
The first thing is for me, it comes to me across as though she wasn't even aware that these monies had been stolen or taken from her until the point that the husband discovered that something untoward.
That's a fact.
So the question then is, how much more money was actually in the house that we don't know, right? And number two, if, or by the time you become a minister, or at the time you're becoming a minister, you declare your assets, you declare your liabilities, we know all of that. So are we in a position to establish that these monies, because on the charge sheet that you read, almost 9 out of the 10 or so charges, so probably about 7, directly says that this is quote unquote the property of Cecilia Dapaah, right?
In fact, it is only count 6, which is the value of the kente and suits that belong to the husband.
Yes. So then, since she became a minister, we know how much ministers earn in this country. We know what they are paid every month. We should be in a position to then establish whether these monies, which she says were her property, was actually earned legitimately or not. Because what is very clear, and what we all have been talking about, is that Ghana is not poor. And it looks as though it is the national cake that is residing in people's bedrooms, to put it a bit more mildly in that sense. So we need to interrogate.
Still on this matter, the Ghana Integrity Initiative says this issue must be handled differently from previous corruption cases.
The ordinary citizen has also come to appreciate the fact that they are not getting the fair share of the national cake. And so they are using this opportunity to also then bargain. So in some instances, you would realize that some communities are bargaining that if you do not get us this, we will not vote. Others are bargaining that if you do not give me a car, I will not vote. So the person who is interested in political office is now getting voted based on the amount of money they are able to make. And to crown it, the EC law on political party financing is not that clear, and the sanctioning around it is also very weak. But then we are talking about even actions to ensure that political parties are in compliance. This is weak. So this is why the drive for a political financing regime that takes away the issues around people giving people monies that cannot be accounted for, and so people would have to go and stash them in their houses. I'm not saying that is the case for the Honorable Minister, but just like you read copiously from the Honorable Obeda Samoa, this we have heard continues to happen.
And the Office of the Special Prosecutor sent out a tweet in the last hour issuing a warning to persons engaged in corruption in Ghana that they will not escape justice. The tweet comes as anti-graft campaigners and sections of Ghanaians demand that the OSP investigates allegations that House Help of Sanitation Minister Cecilia Dapaah stole millions of cash in multiple currencies from her home in Abilinkpe here in Accra. Now, though the OSP is yet to issue an official comment on the calls, it has tweeted a recorded message in the last hour about its pursuit of persons engaged in corruption and corruption-related activities in the country. All right, let's move on to some other stories. And minority in Parliament is calling for expedited hearings of the special committee set up by Parliament to investigate a leaked tape which allegedly exposed a plot to remove the IGP, Dr. George Akufo-Dampare, and rig the 2024 election. Now, former NPP Northern Regional Chairman Bugri Nabu has confirmed the authenticity of the tape has been one of the voices heard on. Now, speaking to journalists in Parliament, a deputy minority leader, Emmanuel Amakufibua, explained that names of the committee members have been forwarded to the Speaker and there is an immediate need to bring finality to the matter.
If anybody had any doubt on the authenticity of that leaked tape, yesterday in that interview, our senior Bugri Nabu basically cleared that doubt and basically confirmed that indeed that meeting took place and that leak tape was authentic. Now, it's very, very clear. We also heard that two of his secretaries, as the interview told us, were picked up by the NIB. I think it's important that we revisit this matter this morning. One, we call on this parliament to basically continue that investigation, independent investigation. And so the speaker had directed that we nominate members who have already done that. We believe that that committee must begin work as quickly as possible.
Emmanuel Amaku-Fibua also demanded that the police and other security agencies publicly speak on the alleged arrest made in connection with the leaked tape.
It is also important that we know exactly what the police service is doing. We also must know what the Interior Ministry is doing. Now, we found out that two of the secretaries of Bugri Nabu were picked up yesterday. Now, it is important that this investigation is thorough. And that means that all those involved in that leak tape involvement must be part of this comprehensive investigation, including the police officers and everybody else involved. We need to get to the bottom of this matter. And as I said earlier, and the reason why I brought this up, it had everything to do with the stability, our democracy, and our national security. And it's very, very important that this matter, if anybody had any doubt, there was something that, quite frankly, was not true. It has been confirmed that, indeed, there was a meeting, there was this discussion about a conspiracy to remove the IGP, and that must concern every Ghanaian, and we must get to the bottom of it. In fact, one of the real concerning matters had to do with the discussion in that leak tape about plans to interfere with the 2024 elections. This country must be concerned, and that's why we are re-echoing a complete investigation, especially now that Bugri Nabu has cleared every doubt that the tape was authentic.
And to some other stories, the Lands and Natural Resources Minister Samuel Abu-Jinapor has described as unfortunate illegal mining activities on the Black Volta. In an interaction with the media, the minister revealed that 20 champhine machines were destroyed through a joint operation of the Armed Forces and the Savannah Regional Security Council. He further assured measures would be put in place to ensure all river bodies are protected.
I just want to give a quick briefing on the unfortunate reports we received about the Black Volta and the incidences of illegal small-scale mining activities on this river body of our country. The Black Volta straddles between the Savannah through Bono all the way through our country, and it's a very important river body of our country, and therefore the need for us to protect that river body and others across the country is absolutely important. I'm happy to report that following the intelligence gathered and the reports which the ministry received, working closely with the Minerals Commission and the Savannah Regional Security Council chaired by the Regional Minister, Honorable Muazu Jibril, the 6BN in collaboration with the military command of the Savannah region were able to carry out a recce, an intelligence gathering operation, and were able to ascertain the true facts on the ground. And as I speak to you now, a series of operations have been embarked upon. The reports I've received suggest that 20 champhines have been destroyed, and a well thought through, elaborate operational plan has been put in place to ensure that there are no recurrence of these illegal mining activities on this river body of our country. I mean, I think it's important that we have to take these measures because these are some of the river bodies which are largely not invaded by illegal small-scale mining operators and activities. And therefore, if we take preemptive measures and take proactive measures to ensure that we protect that enclave, it will be good for our country. And I want to assure the country that we're going to do everything possible. The Minerals Commission is working around the clock. The Inspectorate Division, as well as the Commission itself, is supporting the Savannah Regional Security Council and Coordinating Council to be on top of this particular issue. The further information we have is that some of these persons and operators have moved to the Bono East region of our country, and therefore we've begun discussions with the commands of the Central Command of the Ghana Armed Forces to make sure that these individuals are flushed out. The most important thing is that the ministry assures the country that we're going to take all measures necessary to protect all the river bodies of our country. Yeah.
Let's now talk politics. And former Trades and Industry Minister Alan Kojo Kyerematen has ended the tour of the Oti region with an appeal to delegates to consider him among the first 5 aspirants of the Super Delegates Congress in the coming months. Correspondent Peter Seno has more.
The scheduled 2-day delegates tour entered its 3rd day on Thursday. Alan met delegates from all the 9 constituencies who hardly received him with cheers. Abubakar Sadiq Boniface is the National Operations Commander for Alan campaign team. He tells why Alan must be supported to lead the party.
I'm telling you that this is a visionary man. If you check, if you read political history, check. If you go to China, the party is stronger than the government. The billionaires you hear about in China are party faithfuls. Alan provided funds. You also established what we call constituency business ventures. Gave them working capital. Others, he helped to establish block making machines, water making machines, donated to constituencies. Even buses were donated to some constituencies to run a business. Honorable Abubakar Sadiq Boniface, I know the man coming after His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, whether we like it or not. It is Alan John Kojo Kyerematen who is becoming the president.
Some youth have also joined the Alan campaign team. They tell us why they are on this mission.
On the tangent of credibility, amongst all the people rooting to be president, leading the MPP into the general elections, nobody is more credible than the Honorable Alan Kyerematen. In terms of the party spirit, he represents the true party spirit because the MPP believes in long service, sacrifice, and continuous dedication. And he being the man who checked all these boxes, I don't think that any other person, even from the party perspective, is better equipped to lead this country.
For Alan Kyerematen, this prominent contest is about who Ghanaians would trust to break the 8 for the MPP. He says he is the one with a national character to deliver this victory for the MPP and Ghanaians at large.
And then because I'm the only candidate for MPP this year. But we NDC, Acheampong, voter rating, good for.
I must say, I have flag bearer on your show. I am myself flag bearer and Mukoyi. Mukoyi will be a person more torn on Magana for Meto. Nipo do know. You're fine people. No, Nipa Bakubi Oma. Samoto on Magana for Ghana for
He also wants delegates to consider him because he has a plan to put all polling station executives on a payroll for their sacrifices and dedication to the party.
Maza would also pension, party more pension, uni pension. Now, embrace our Kojo Ahonia. Nessa Wokoka. Hey, Nessa Guayano, Wokoka. Mobile pension, maybe Amano.
Apart from that, he again intends to raise 2 local contractors to execute local contracts to create jobs and strengthen the economy. But how feasible is this intention to put party workers on a payroll? Yao Boabia Samoa is one of the campaign coordinators for the Alan campaign team.
Alan has been emphatic about politics being divorced from the public purse. As we speak, he is running this campaign, and not on public funds, but on support from well-wishers and supporters. He's not using government money. And he stated it ad nauseum, said he is not going to use public funds as president to support the party. That he is going to found the party on private sector principles. That is what powerful parties worldwide do. The ANC of South Africa, the Chinese Communist People's Party.
From Alan's 3-day campaign tour of the Oti region to appeal to voters to vote for him during this pruning exercise. My name is Peter Sanu for Joy News.
Still on the NPP, it is a family feud, a political battle between an uncle, Yusuf Osman, and nephew, Manaf Ibrahim, in the NPP parliamentary primary in the Asawase constituency. With the opening of nominations for NPP orphan constituencies, the thought of an easy race for Manaf, a former contender in the race, has turned to be a rather fierce contest. Now, others are also joining the race, including Hajia Zainab Swallow, now the Ashanti Regional Financial Secretary of the NPP, who doubles as regional head of Maslok. Nanayao Jima pulls a spotlight on the Asawase constituency days into the opening of the nomination.
Asawase has been a safe seat for the National Democratic Congress in the Ashanti region. It is one of the 2 constituencies in the region never won by the NPP. The closest the party has come to victory in the constituency was in 2016 when they lost to NDC's Muntaka Mubarak by less than 6,000 votes. NPP leaders are optimistic of victory if unity is fostered. Noah Ousu is first vice chair of the Asawase constituency.
The party is convinced that when we come out with unity, anything can be achieved. Muntaka isn't a small person when it comes to politics, but we know that gradually, as we fought him previously, we can now come together and then do something positive for ourselves.
A staff at the office of the president, Yusuf Osman, is the latest candidate to have picked forms to contest the primary. A Mamprisi from the home of the Sariki Mamprisi of the Zongo community in Kumase, Yusuf is well known among residents of Sabun Zongo. To his supporters, he is a unifying candidate because he is the only one who has refused to align to any faction in the party at the constituency level. Baron Atuguba touts the ability of the aspirant.
We went to 2020 election, lost like 20,000 votes. So if you continue on doing the same thing, you continue to get the same results. And there's some saying that people do some skirts and blouse in Asawase constituency. So in case we present the same candidate and the other candidate who thought that people do that underground campaign against him, what will they do? They will go the same way, go and do campaign against him. It won't affect the candidate, but rather go and affect the party at large. So thinking that new face is the person that can unite both factions.
From the household of the Sariki Mamprisi also is Manaf Ibrahim, who has long worked towards leading the NPP in the constituency. The former staff of the vice president's office was suspended by the party in 2016, denying him of an opportunity to contest the race after filing nomination. His supporters, who contend his suspension was not justified, say Manaf holds the party's key to success.
He is a unifier and he's a philanthropist of this Asawase constituency and the nation at large, because not being in a leadership role as a MC or MP or a parliamentary candidate or whatever, what have you, he's doing so well in the areas of health.
Asawase mpanyinfo de obi ani hwa obetumi akase brother no omwa Asawase mpanyinfo we ma yenya ni mugide se obetumi abaye MP ye woni mugide because osuro nyankopon ehumobro woni mu obre ne ho ase.
Meanwhile, the Ashanti Regional Treasurer of the NPP, Hajia Zainab Salo, has announced her interest to contest NPP Asawase primary. The regional Maslok boss expressed concern over lack of unity among party members.
Or if I will start my campaign, I'll beg them that they should vote for me so that we're able to bring unity among the party. Our intention and our agenda as an MPP is to break the 8. but you can't break the 8 without unity. As I see MPP, we are more than even NDC.
It is expected that others will pick nominations in the party's bid to wrestle power from the 5th term incumbent MP, Muntaka Mubarak. For Joy News, Nana Ojima reporting.
Away from politics, the Ghana Integrated Iron and Steel Development Corporation has engaged 5 communities at KJB in the Oti region on the possible impact of iron ore mining activities on their livelihood. The corporation has assured residents of minimal destruction to the soil at the exploratory stages, and compensation would be paid in the case of destruction to any food or cash crop. Peter Seno has more in the following reports.
Ghana Integrated Iron and Steel Development Corporation, GSDEC, has embarked on stakeholder and community engagement in 5 communities in the Oti region. Asatu, Uwawaso, Kosamba, Jamrume and Ketepi were the communities visited in KJB district. GSDEC briefed the chiefs about their presence in their community.
We have enjoyed your cooperation for some time now. Since the start of iron ore discovery in the area and subsequent studies that have been carried out, you have been so cooperative to the cause of the Ghana Integrated Iron and Steel Development Corporation, and we appreciate that. We all know that when we find the iron ore, there is need for more studies to be done to know the quality and quantity of the ore, which will inform further decision making. So with us is the 7-star group that we are here to introduce to you, to let you know that they are here to still continue the studies that we have been talking about. DS is to get proper geological information of the iron ore blocks that we have in the area, and then to see how we can collaborate to go into mining in the future.
The chiefs and elders of Asatu also raised concerns about their farms and livelihood.
What kind of activity will really go on that may warrant the destruction of the environment, that may affect farmers who are farming there?
But the assurance came that very minimal portions of iron ore blocks would be explored to determine the quantity and quality of ore deposits. The GSDEC team later visited the communities and had engagements with them. They also visited the district chief executive, Wilson Agbanyo, to brief him on the presence of the exploratory team in his jurisdiction. He also echoed the worries of his people about destruction to crops.
Cutting down of cocoa trees or any other. This land tenure system,
yes,
even though the chiefs and elders are delegated to the people,
yes,
I think when you come back, you have to meet here again.
Sure.
We invite them.
Okay.
We take records for them to say that they have signed. Everybody has put his signature.
Sure.
That if it is Baba Taju's farm,
yes,
nobody will say that I saw my grandfather gave them land to you long time. Because of that, I'm taking part of that. You know, these things happen. Yeah.
Sure.
Nasrullah Abdullahi is the director for GSDEC in charge of corporate affairs and international relations. According to him, the reception has been good at KJB. He has also been responding to concerns raised by residents of Akpafu, Lolobi Buri, and Santrokofi earlier not to allow any iron ore mining activities in their communities. The residents in June this year formed an anti-iron ore mining committee to kick against any exploratory activities in the area. Nasrullah Abdullahi says GSDEC intends to engage the communities further to allay their fears.
We intend to go to the people to explain further to them what our plans are in terms of how we intend to safeguard the environment. Some of their concerns have bordered on environmental degradation. But it is important to state that in the case of iron ore mining, one cannot do illegal mining with iron ore mining. You cannot do galamsey with iron ore mining. And the issue of water pollution doesn't come into play when you are dealing with iron ore mining. It is when you are engaged in the mining of gold and other minerals that you may be concerned about pollution to water bodies, because in the case of iron ore, you don't need water to be washing it as you do for gold mining. And so the issue of water pollution does not come into the fray. So we have to go down there to explain to them. And in the next couple of weeks, we are going to have intensive community engagement in the area to allay the fears of residents in the area.
Peter Sanu for Joy News.
Away from the Oti region, let me take you up north to the Upper West region, where visually impaired persons who are weavers in the Wa municipality of the region are heaving a sigh of relief following the handing over of a container shop to help their work. Hitherto, they risk moving around the streets looking for prospective buyers for their products. They are either knocked down by vehicles and injured in the process. Now, leader of the visually impaired weavers says they will use the shop as a center to also train persons with other disabilities and willing to learn a trade. Joy News Upper West Regional Correspondent Rafiq Salam reports.
One of the many challenges faced by weavers who are visually impaired in the one municipality of the Upper West region is the lack of permanent place for them to market their products. As a result of that, they always carry and move around the busy streets with the camp beds, chairs, and other products looking for prospective buyers. Majority of them doesn't have the physical strength to move around with the products. The rest, who risk their lives and go into the streets, are sometimes knocked down by vehicles, injuring or maiming them in the process. The visual impaired weavers prompted the Wa Municipal Assembly on their plight through the Social Welfare Department and the Wa Mayor, Isaku Kyerematen, who came to their aid through the Disability Common Fund.
And then we cannot allow them to be on their own just like that. These are people who are disadvantaged in one way or the other, and we think that as municipal authority, we should find a way of helping them to incorporate very well into the society to also make a living. So, and through the District Assembly Common Fund for people with disability, we have decided that we have to come to their aid to provide this facility for them. One thing that is remarkable when I had a discussion with them was when they said a number of them are on the street begging. So if they have this facility, they will also bring them under their roof, at least to provide them with some training. That we think is laudable enough, at least to provide something for the vulnerable. We have also have in our plans to see what we can do to get them a startup capital so that they can start very well. And they also have something enough to invite other people to their fold, as they've indicated, to give them training. So that one we would have lived to our social responsibility and our responsibility as Municipal Assembly.
Leader of the Wa Visual Impaired Weavers, Peter Deredevoro, commended the Wa Municipal Assembly for coming to their aid.
We are so much happy this afternoon to receive this container that will actually ease our movement in town. The way the cars have been hitting us down every day. Me myself, a car nearly cracked my head as I was moving. I was going to sell my camp bed, but God being so good on my part, nothing happened to me. I only wounded myself, and they went and they do some stitches at the hospital. And my friend, those who are over here behind me, they were also equally knocked down by Camus. It was not easy for us at all, but upon all this, when we came to our municipal chief, he didn't sit with it at all. He just rushed with it very fast, and now here we are. We have gotten our container to sit on it and make our camp beds.
He added that they will use the container shop as a learning center to train other disabled persons who are willing to learn a trade.
We are not getting the container to sit down and be talking alone. We are going to bring our friends, those who are in the street begging. We are going to bring them to come and train them. Like how I learned this way, and I say I will not take the work upon myself. I went to school for a while and then asked them to employ me as a voluntary worker. So I train teachers, students there, and those who are behind, they are all my trainees. And I'm very proud and very happy about that.
Next challenge they will grapple with will be the issue of startup capital, which you want the assembly to deal with.
When I started, I actually struggled a lot because I start with the small standard stools. I with the standard stools, small stools out to the armchairs, then the camp bed. That's why I am today, and I'm training my people how to make the camp bed. Not only camp bed alone, chairs, standard table, doormat, and then armchair, Backah, those who had the thing that will hang on the chair will make all this. But it was not easy for me at all. When I started, I found it very difficult. But now, with the support of this Minister Chief Executive, I know today we are somehow better.
To make real government commitment to improving technical and vocational education, members of the group should be properly employed in the institutions to train the students.
I completed this work 2013. I wrote a lot of letters to other various institutions for them to help me so that I can also train my colleagues. I even went to Don Bosco School. That's a mental challenge. The head was so happy. He wrote his cabinet letter and I added my letter. We sent it to special education. We did not hear anything. WADEF, they also requested for me, but it didn't yield any results. So a lot of my friends are also facing the same challenges. So if the government can able to look on those issues so that we can, when we also finish this training, we can also share our knowledge to our colleagues who are also in the various schools.
The one municipality has a population of about 200,000 people. Records from the Apawas office of the Social Welfare Department peg the number of persons with disability to about 2,000 persons, representing 1%. Reporting for Joy News, Rafik Salam.
Now, to one of our headline stories, and the country's total debt stock witnessed some significant increase from end of December to reach 569.3 billion in April this year. Now, this was captured in the latest Bank of Ghana's Economic and Financial Data Report. George Biafe of Joy Business joins us with details of that. George, grateful you could join me here on Newsroom. How do you explain this significant rise in our debt stock, George?
Well, Pious, if you follow the debt stock numbers, some interesting things have been happening. Now, let me just take you back a little bit. Somewhere from November 2022 to December 2022. If you cast your mind back to look at that data that the Bank of Ghana released, you realize that the debt stock dropped significantly by over 100 billion Ghana cedis. Now, that wasn't as a result of the debt exchange program, because that started this year, and whatever dynamics that you want to put at it, but rather it was because of the strong gains made by the Ghana cedi from that period that actually brought the debt stock down significantly. Since this data was released by the Bank of Ghana, we've been engaging our sources behind the scenes, and what we are picking up is that it is again the exchange rate dynamics that have shot the number from the 400 billion range to now a little over, or even close to the 600 billion Ghana cedis that we are witnessing ending April this year. So it wasn't necessarily as a result of fresh borrowings by government, but rather when you look at our external debt position, and if you follow the numbers or follow the discussions, we are so yet to reach a deal with our external creditors on our debt stock when it comes to our external position. And if you look at the numbers, even if you go through what the Bank of Ghana has released, we're looking at somewhere around a little over $30 billion in terms of our external debt stock. So the exchange rate dynamics, because you realize that in January, in March, there were some reversals, and that is what has contributed to that almost 100 billion Ghana cedis rise in our debt position ending April this year.
All right, so George, I guess since we are still on the negotiating table with the external creditors, I dare say that we are likely to see our debt stock increase further.
Yes, of course, and Pious, as long as we are able to close discussions early enough, then it means that it will go up further. That is scenario one, Pious. Also, don't forget that this is ending April. So we are so yet to realize the impact of the domestic debt exchange program, including the dollar bond that is being renegotiated, as well as the cocoa bills. So maybe the latest numbers that will come, that should cover the full half year for 2023, we might see some reduction. Don't forget that we've also seen the cedi again recording some gains. So you realize that, Pious, if we want to really bring our debt stock down significantly, a major factor or variable here is the stability of the Ghana cedi, because the little that we saw in December last year brought our debt stock down by over 100 billion Ghana cedis. So yes, of course, it would impact on the numbers. But if the next time that they release this data, we've been able to reach a deal with these external debt stock or external creditors, and also factor in the domestic debt exchange program that was done, we could see some significant drop in our total debt stock, maybe ending June or July this year.
George, you've been studying the figures and analyzing it for us, but must we be worried?
Well, we should be worried, but again, you will say that we've seen that we have a fund program, and there's drastic steps being taken to review or bring our debt stock to an appreciable position. As we stand right now, the World Bank, based on latest data, says that our debts are unsustainable. But Pious, another interesting thing, if you look at the debt stock ending April this year, in relation to the size of our economy, we're looking at somewhere around 71%. That is really not bad. But some also say that if you want to do a holistic analysis of a country's debt position, you just don't want to use the debt GDP ratio. There are other 6 to 7 variables that you use. And that is why the World Bank has classified our debt as unsustainable. If the domestic debt exchange program goes as planned, as well as the external restructuring that is going on, coupled with the Ghana cedi stabilizing strongly and the economy expanding, we could confidently say that going forward, we shouldn't be that worried in terms of our debt and what is being done. Again, you remember that the latest report that the World Bank has released seems to suggest that from 2025, our economy will fully recover. That is interesting because don't forget that when these debt exchange programs started, there were those who were projecting that it will take about 10 years for the economy to fully recover. It appears that based on the scenarios that the World Bank has put together, even the IMF recently, after the assessment of the local economy, said that they have seen those signs of recovery, coupled with what Fitch Solutions also projected that the economy will go down and then it will come up again. So if you look at all these scenarios being presented, subject to us sticking to the fiscal consolidation and taking those right fiscal steps and strategies and policies, it appears that the outlook doesn't look that bad for us in terms of recovery of this economy. Thank you very much. George Yafe is my colleague here at Joy Business, breaking it down for us on the debt figures. A reminder, you're still watching Joy Newsroom here with me, Pious, Kojo, Backah. We've got more for you after this break. Hello, welcome back to Joy Newsroom. The Ghana National Petroleum Commission says it is doing a lot to ensure an equitable sharing of Ghana's oil money through the development of various communities. According to the GNPC, several projects have been engineered by their outfit aimed at improving the lives of every Ghanaian. Executive Director of the GNPC Foundation, Dr. Dominic Edua, gave the assurance during an inspection tour of their projects in the Central Region. There is more in this report.
Speaking after a tour of their facilities, the Executive Director of the GNPC Foundation, Dr. Dominic Edua, indicated the organization will ensure a judicious use of Ghana's oil money.
Today, we are in the Central Region to inspect and then hand over completed projects. We are not doing this only in Central Region. In the next 1 week, we're doing Ashanti Region, we're doing Eastern Region, we're doing Western Region and Greater Accra. GNPC Foundation currently is working in all 16 regions across the country. We are not leaving any region behind. Here in Central Region, in terms of our projects, I think we've given Central Region their fair share. 6 unit classroom block, I can mention close to about 11 of them, only in Central Region. In terms of astroturfs, as I mentioned, just close by, we have one in Abasan, we have one in Mankasim, being used as we speak. In terms of boreholes, giving close to about 45 boreholes to the people of Central Region. Dormitory, we just commissioned one.
Science lab, we just commissioned one in BCNC. So whatever GNPC Foundation is doing, Central Region has gotten its share. That's how we distribute the oil resources across the country. We are simply into impact lives, and we're doing it through various means, and this is one of them.
Vice President of the Central Regional House of Chiefs, Nana Okofo Akonu III, thanked the GNPC Foundation for such show of support.
We are grateful to you for giving us this magnificent edifice. I haven't seen it yet, but I believe it's magnificent because you never fail. Now it is our responsibility to maintain the building when handed over to us. To the students, I will admonish you against any form of graffiti on the walls. Let us help keep it clean. What about them giving us?
Headmistress of Mando Secondary Technical School, Roslyn Adusowa, explained how the infrastructure is going to help them, especially in the upcoming admissions.
Could not have been any better news this week than the handing over of this edifice. As we prepare to declare vacancy for admission this year, the need for this facility cannot be downplayed. It is definitely going to grant access to many girls otherwise would have been day students. The choice of Mando Senior High Technical School to hold this deba is a clear acknowledgement of giant strides that the school is making in all aspects of training our future leaders.
The GNPC Foundation handed over the facility to the school.
Several marginalized communities in the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly suffer from a shortage of essential educational resources, including stationery in their schools. The predicament negatively impacts pupils' attendance and academic performance. To this end, the Bulk Oil Storage and Transportation Company is providing an intervention with the distribution of exercise books to some schools. Clinton Yabua has more.
Stationery such as exercise books, pencils, pens, and other vital materials are significant components for both teachers and pupils in basic schools. Many deprived communities in the country struggle to provide the necessary resources to support effective teaching and learning. Lack of these essential basic learning materials influences poor performance and creates educational disparities between students from disadvantaged backgrounds and their peers. KCMA Primary and JHS house 975 students, according to headmistress of KCMA Basic School, Rita Dela. The situation hinders teachers' ability to assist pupils in their studies.
Our children, for instance, some of them are from broken homes, indigenous homes, and that kind of thing. So it's very, very difficult for their parents to get them these books to come to school to write. Some of them, I can say, ever since school opened, they haven't got all the books to write in. And you cannot use an exercise book as a yardstick to drive a child home. Because, of course, he doesn't take care of himself. It's been bought for the child by parents. So if you push the parents so much and they are not doing it, you have to hold on. So today, boss coming to our aid by giving them this 5,000 exercise books, it's really a relief, I can say. Because these children are going to get these books. They have received it and they are so happy to get these books to write in. And I think it will encourage them to come to school quite often and with all the joy of coming to school.
Rita Dela was speaking in appreciation of a 5,000 exercise book donation by the BOST. The donation forms part of a 100,000 exercise book donation project being distributed to impacted community schools where BOST operates. Government Relations, Corporate Social Responsibility and Protocol Manager at BOST, Yao Anchidazi, explains the gesture forms part of the company's corporate social responsibility.
And each student is going home with 5 exercise books. We believe that one of the key areas that we can support the community is to support the students, the children who school in the community. If anything happens to our company, they are the ones who will bear the brand. So that's how come we call them our impacted communities. We believe that as we support them in the area of education, they will grow to become the future leaders who will build this community in which we find ourselves. As BOST, we have a corporate social responsibility project that we are executing, and as part of this we have an educational scholarship scheme that we have already put in place, for our impacted communities.
We are going to use these books to learn very hard, and we also try our best to learn hard. We know how to learn, but rather these books are used for learning. So we are going to use these books anytime. If we look at these books, we will use to remember what they have done for us. So thank you.
The Backah Oil Storage Transportation Company is a private limited liability company with the government of Ghana as the sole shareholder. Reporting for Joy News, Clinton Yabo.
Business is next. The Institute of Economic Affairs has indicated that the over-reliance on monetary policy in addressing the hikes in inflation would yield no positive results. The Institute is entreating government to address the supply-side factors driving inflation. According to Director of Research at the Institute, Dr. John Kwache, more collaboration is needed between the government and the Bank of Ghana to address the country's high inflation in the mid-year budget scheduled for next week.
We rely on a monetary policy framework that essentially focuses on controlling demand pressures in the economy. But what we have come to realize is that our inflation is also determined, to a large extent by supply and cost factors. And this, we've been talking about food, fuel, the importance of fuel in driving our inflation, transportation, and then of course the exchange rate. So you cannot use the Bank of Ghana policy rate alone, to just manage demand. You have to address the supply factors also. And this is what we have been calling for, for a long time. And we're just asking both Bank of Ghana and government to, cooperate, work together, so that they can also be addressing the supply and cost factors that drive inflation. We are happy to note that when it comes to the demand pressures, the program contains a provision for reducing what they call monetary financing of the budget by Bank of Ghana. In fact, government and the Bank of Ghana have signed a memorandum of understanding now for Bank of Ghana not to lend to government at all, under the program. So that will help to reduce the demand pressures. But we're saying that they should do something about the supply and cost factors as well.
Economist Dr. Patrick Isumene is calling on government to address issues regarding food inflation. According to him, food inflation has been a major factor in continuous surge in the general inflation rate, and so government needs to invest more into food production to tackle the situation.
I will agree with the sentiment that we should combine demand management measures with also measures to address the supply side constraints. But not to say that the current monetary policy framework has not been, or the current rate hikes has not been effective. I think it's clear from what we have learned that last year the Bank of Ghana probably extended more overdraft to the government than anticipated. So in some sense, you should think that there should be some excess liquidity in the system. So on that score, I think trying to make more reforms to cut the extent of financing, the deficit financing by the Bank of Ghana will help. But I think at the same time, we really need to address the problems with food production. We've seen that the current bout of inflation is really driven by food inflation. So it's important that in addition to the monetary policy measures, we should see real action to try and expand and then invest more into agriculture and food production. I wouldn't be surprised to see a further hike of the rate. I think, back in January, February and March, we were all beginning to think that we are on the path to disinflation. But the last few readings that we've seen have seen that there's been a stalling of the disinflation path. So I wouldn't be surprised, given the posture of the current MPC and their aversion towards, inflationary pressures. I wouldn't be surprised to see that they will raise the policy rate again.
Thanks so much for watching Joy Newsroom with me, Pious, Kojo, Backah. You can get great stories when you log on to myjoyonline.com. And of course, as well as business, you can get that as well /business. Do enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Bye.